Hey family, this is day 52 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're covering Deuteronomy chapters 6 through 8, or as I've been saying, the book Davarim, the words. Remember Moses, however you like to think about it now. He is talking to Israel, but the generation that's about to enter the promised land, right? They've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and now Moses is basically reiterating, okay, here's the big deal about God and you and the covenant and what you're supposed to do when you go into this land. And so we're getting into that a little bit today. So let's see how it plays out. Now these are the orders and the laws and the decisions which Yahweh your God gave me for your teaching, so that you might do them in the land of your heritage to which you are going, so that living in fear of Yahweh your God you may keep all his laws and his orders which I give you, you and your son's son, all the days of your life, and so that your life may be long. So give ear, O Yisrael, and take care to do this, so that it may be well for you, and you may be greatly increased, as Yahweh the God of your fathers has given you his word in a land flowing with milk and honey. Give ear, O Yisrael, Yahweh our God is one, and Yahweh your God is to be loved with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. Keep these words which I say to you this day deep in your hearts, teaching them to your children with all care, talking of them when you are at rest in your house or walking by the way, when you go to sleep and when you get up. Let them be fixed as a sign on your hand and marked on your brow. Have them lettered on the pillars of your houses and over the doors of your towns. And when Yahweh your God has taken you into the land which he gave his oath to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov, that he would give you, with great and fair towns which were not of your building, and houses full of good things not stored up by you, and places for storing water which you did not make, and vine gardens and olive trees not of your planting, and you have taken food and are full. Then take care that you keep your hearts true to Yahweh, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the prison house. Let the fear of Yahweh your God be in your hearts, and be his servants, taking your oaths by his name. Do not go after other gods, the gods of the peoples around you. For Yahweh your God, who is with you, is a God who will not let his honor be given to another, or the wrath of Yahweh will be burning against you, causing your destruction from the face of the earth. Do not put Yahweh your God to the test, as you did in Massah. Keep with care the orders of Yahweh your God, and his rules and his laws which he has given you, and do what is upright and good in the eyes of Yahweh your God, so that it may be well for you, and you may go in and take for your heritage that good land from which Yahweh undertook by an oath to your fathers, to send out from before you all those who are against you. And when your son says to you in times to come, what is the reason for these rules and laws and decisions which Yahweh our God has given you? Then you will say to your son, we were servants under Pharaoh's yoke in Egypt, and Yahweh took us out of Egypt with a strong hand. And Yahweh did great signs and wonders against Egypt and against Pharaoh and all his house before our eyes. And he took us out from that place, guiding us here to give us this land, and he said in his oath to our fathers, and Yahweh gave us orders to keep all these laws, in the fear of Yahweh our God, so that it might be well for us forever, that he might keep us from death, as he has done to this day. And it will be our righteousness if we take care to keep all this order before Yahweh our God as he has given to us. When Yahweh your God takes you into the land where you are going, which is to be your heritage, and has sent out the nations before you, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and stronger than you, and when Yahweh has given them up into your hands and you have overcome them, give them up to complete destruction. Make no agreement with them, and have no mercy on them. Do not take wives or husbands from among them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons. For through them your sons will be turned from me to the worship of other gods, and Yahweh will be moved to wrath against you and send destruction on you quickly. But this is what you are to do to them. Their altars are to be pulled down, and their pillars broken, and their holy trees cut down, and their images burned with fire. For you are a holy people to Yahweh your God, marked out by Yahweh your God to be his special people out of all the nations on the face of the earth. Yahweh did not give you his love or take you for himself because you were more in number than any other people, for you were the smallest of the nations. But because of his love for you, and in order to keep his oath to your fathers, Yahweh took you out with the strength of his hand, making you free from the prison house and from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Be certain then that Yahweh your God is God, whose faith and mercy are unchanging, who keeps his word through 1,000 generations to those who have love for him and keep his laws. rewarding his haters to their face with destruction. He will have no mercy on his hater, but will give him open punishment. So keep the orders and the laws and the decisions which I give you today and do them. And it will be that if you give attention to these decisions and keep and do them, then Yahweh will keep his agreement with you and his mercy, as he said in his oath to your fathers. And he will give you his love, blessing you and increasing you. He will send his blessing on the offspring of your body and the fruit of your land, your grain and your wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the young of your flock, in the land which, by his oath to your fathers, he undertook to give you. You will have greater blessings than any other people. No male or female among you or among your cattle will be without offspring. And Yahweh will take away from you all disease, and will not put on you any of the evil diseases of Egypt which you have seen, but will put them on your haters. And you are to send destruction on all the peoples which Yahweh your God gives into your hands. Have no pity on them, and do not give worship to their gods, for that will be a cause of sin to you. If you say in your hearts, these nations are greater in number than we are, how are we to take their land from them? Have no fear of them, but keep well in mind what Yahweh your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. The great punishments which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders and the strong hand and the stretched out arm by which Yahweh your God took you out, so will Yahweh your God do to all the peoples who are the cause of your fears. And Yahweh will send a hornet among them until all the rest who have kept themselves safe from you in secret places have been cut off. Have no fear of them, for Yahweh your God is with you, a great God greatly to be feared. Yahweh your God will send out the nations before you little by little. They are not to be rooted out quickly, for fear that the beasts of the field may be increased overmuch against you. But Yahweh your God will give them up into your hands, overpowering them until their destruction is complete. He will give their kings into your hands, and you will put their names out of existence under heaven. There is not one of them who will not give way before you until their destruction is complete. The images of their gods are to be burned with fire, having no desire for the gold and silver on them. And do not take it for yourselves, for it will be a danger to you. It is a disgusting thing to Yahweh your God. And you may not take a disgusting thing into your house, and so become cursed with its curse. But keep yourselves from it, turning from it with fear and hate, for it is a cursed thing. Take care to keep all the orders which I give you today, so that you may have a life and be increased and go in and take as a heritage the land which Yahweh, by his oath to your fathers, undertook to give you. And keep in mind the way by which Yahweh your God has taken you through the wasteland these 40 years, so that he might make low your pride and put you to the test, to see what was in your heart, and if you would keep his orders or not. And he made low your pride, and let you be without food, and gave you manna for your food, a thing new to you, which your fathers never saw, so that he might make it clear to you that bread is not man's only need, but his life is in every word which comes out of the mouth of Yahweh. Through all these 40 years, your clothing did not get old or your feet become tired. Keep in mind this thought, that as a son is trained by his father, so you have been trained by Yahweh your God. Then keep the orders of Yahweh your God, fearing him and walking in his ways. For Yahweh your God is guiding you into a good land, a land of water springs, of fountains, and deep streams flowing out from the valleys and the hills. A land of grain and vines and fig trees and fair fruits, a land of oil-giving olive trees and honey, where there will be bread for you in full measure, and you will be in need of nothing, a land where the very stones are iron, and from whose hills you may get copper. And you will have food enough to be full, praising Yahweh your God for the good land he has given you. Then take care that you are not turned away from Yahweh your God and from keeping his orders and decisions and laws which I give you this day. And when you have taken food and are full, and have made fair houses for yourselves and are living in them, and when your herds and your flocks are increased, and your stores of silver and gold, and you have wealth of every sort, take care that your hearts are not lifted up in pride, giving no thought to Yahweh your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the prison house, who was your guide through that great and cruel waste, where there was poisonous snakes and scorpions, and a dry land without water, who made water come out of the hard rock for you, who gave you manna for your food in the wasteland, a food which your fathers had never seen, so that your pride might be broken and your hearts tested for your good in the end. Say not then in your hearts, my power and the strength of my hands have got me this wealth. But keep in mind Yahweh your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, so that he may give effect to the agreement which he made by his oath with your fathers as at this day. And it is certain that if at any time you are turned away from Yahweh your God and go after other gods to be their servants and to give them worship, destruction will overtake you. Like the nations which Yahweh is cutting off before you, so you will be cut off, because you would not give ear to the voice of Yahweh your God. Ah, yes, in chapter 6, right at the beginning of the reading, we have the Shema, right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. This is the big one, right? This is the big thing that is a prayer that is prayed to this day by Jews who consider themselves under the covenant still, right? That they pray this. This is such a big deal. And it's such a big deal that even in Jesus in the New Testament, he says the same thing, right? We always think of it as the four, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's actually in Mark. In the book of Matthew, he does the same thing that is in Deuteronomy. It's the big three. Love your Lord your God with all your heart and your soul, with all your strength. And it's beautiful, but apparently Jesus thinks it's the greatest and first most important commandment, followed closely by love your neighbor as yourself, which we found in Leviticus a few days ago. Not more than a few days ago. A few weeks ago. But it's just a beautiful, big moment, big thing, reiterated by Jesus when asked what's the first and greatest commandment. But then we get into a couple of chapters of just like, these are the things that God will do for you. These are the blessings that God will give you. This is what God wants to give you if you follow his commandments. Now, you can say like, holding a knife to me, say, hey, do all these good things and whatever, or I'll destroy you. But it really is just that God has a certain expectation of what he wants humanity to look like, right? He wants Israel to be set apart from the nations. He wants Israel to be a light to the nations. He wants Israel to be something different than the rest of the world so that the rest of the world can look at them and see the personality and the character traits of Yahweh, right? That's the third commandment, right? You bear my name. Don't bear my name falsely, right? Don't take my name in vain. Don't carry my name with you. Don't misrepresent me to the nations. I mean, it's such a big deal. And so he's giving all of these blessings of milk and honey and offspring and peace and safety and all these things if you do what you're supposed to do, right? If you're worshiping me, if you're keeping your eyes on me, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, then I will see to it that life is good for you. Now think about the history of Israel that we're going to see much later, is that they end up being wiped out by Assyria and Babylon. And you can imagine that these people putting together this canon towards the end of that period thinking, man, looking back on our history, what's the reason why we ended up in Babylon or in exile or why our temple got destroyed? Well, it's because we didn't live the life that God intended us to live. We weren't a light to the nations as God intended us to be. And I just wonder, take that 2,000 years post-Jesus, and what does that mean for us? Like, should we expect everything in life to go well for us just because we do our best to be good people? Well, I mean, there's a lot of history of people doing bad, and bad is a cancer and a virus that leaks across, and people get affected by it in different ways. But there is some truth that following the laws of Yahweh, seeing the goodness and the beauty and the moral, ethical decisions that should be made according to a life designed by God, does bring about certain kinds of life, an eternal life, a everlasting life, not in the chronological sense, but in the qualitative sense, right? It is a life that is higher than the life of regular humanity. It is something separate. And Jesus was really clued in onto that. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but I think it's interesting we go back to all these passages where God says, if you do the good things, I'll give you good stuff. And so then we come away with that thinking, oh, like legalism. It's like, well, no. God intended for humanity to be a certain way. And because humanity has decided to do its own thing, God has to work within that to bring it back to the humanity that it originally was supposed to be. And so I hope you have something to think about there, right? What does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing just because you want the blessings from Yahweh? Are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing and thinking that it's okay because you have grace? I mean, you do have grace, and Jesus did die for you. and Jesus loves you. And no, humanity is not perfect. But the fact that humanity is not perfect and Jesus died for you does not give you an excuse to just do whatever you want. I know this deeply within myself more than I could be spitting it out at you, is that your life decisions, your bad decisions, are not justified by Jesus' grace. Don't ever get that mixed up, right? Jesus' grace, Jesus' death, Jesus' resurrection, the Jesus thing justifies you to God, but it does not make an excuse for what you do. There's a difference between justification and excuse, I guess, maybe is where I'm ending today. You should be grateful for the situation that you're in, and because of your gratitude, be living a life that Christ would look at and say, my man or my woman, I love you. Thank you for being who you are. Right? Wouldn't you want Jesus to come and say, hey, thank you for the person that you've been able to become? I don't know. Things get deep sometimes when I just sit here and rant. So I hope I've given you something to internally rant about yourself on this wonderful day.